Hey there folks, Wrel here. Today we're going to be talking about something kind of fun. Shaping the battlefield in PlanetSide 2 is actually pretty easy to do once you start figuring out how each piece affects another, and that's what we'll be talking about today. It should be a pretty brief little video, but hopefully it's worth your time. So by shaping the battlefield, I'm talking about changing the way that a fight plays out. We've all been in those situations where you're just constantly beating your head against a wall. It's the same fight as it's been for the past 30 minutes, and you'll make the same move and you'll die the same way. And you'll do it until you get bored, or until something finally changes. There are a lot of different ways to change the battlefield though, even as an individual. People may not always agree with the methods that you use, but it may work out for the better. Shaping the battlefield relies on knowing what's going on right now, both on the map and in the current fight. It can be something as simple as pulling a force multiplier, so if the enemy doesn't have lock-ons or burster maxes up, then you can always pull an ESF and then farm them with rocket pods and your AI nose gun. This will force at least someone to stop what they're doing and then try to deal with you, because if they don't, then you stand unopposed and you clear the way for the rest of your team on the ground. The point here is to force a change. When you get people to counter what you're throwing at them, some people will play for the team, they just know that something needs to be done, but most people do it out of personal annoyance. If they're getting farmed, they're going to have to either leave the fight or try to put you down. Knowing that you can force that sort of change is a very powerful tool to have. That said, think about smoke. Now I've heard a lot of people talk about smoke as if it's, just super tactical and it doesn't work, but that's so unbelievably wrong that it's not even funny. Let's say that you have a capture point that isn't being breached, right? It's very defended, enemies have plenty of medics, and you're just fighting over it non-stop. You play Peekaboo in the doorways and either side is getting kills, but no progress is being made. If you drop some smoke right on top of the enemy, you just do it over and over and over again, I think you'll be surprised how much things will shift. Most players, they don't run IRNV on their weapons. Likewise, most players also haven't lowered the particle scaling in their user options.ini. So most people will have no choice but to just suffer through the smoke. And when it comes to Peekaboo in a doorway, this does a few different things. The first is that enemies who have smoke on top of their heads do not like it because they can't see. And when they can't see, they're either going to sit tight, or they're going to move forward through the smoke, exposing them to enemy fire, or move backwards and retreat off the point that they're defending. Any of those options is better than Peekaboo in a doorway because allies who cannot see their targets are going to have nothing to shoot at, and when there is nothing to shoot at, you're more inclined to move to some place where you can shoot at something, right? And the targets that you do see through the smoke will be easy kills because their vision is obscured. They're likely to have a red triangle above their head if you can see them, or they'll be glowing through the smoke thanks to the heavy assault's shield, or the hard light armor, or the medic's shield recharging bubble. Again, that is an easy way to shape a fight. And the trick here is to drop smoke right on top of the enemy, not in between, because smoke screens don't actually do much good as screens, thanks to being able to Q-spot through them. However, they do work wonders as a general annoyance. Another way to shape a fight is by spawn manipulation. Not as intricate as in small-scale first-person shooters, but it is just as effective, if not more effective, in PlanetSide 2, and a lot of this is drawn from the pub mentality. The easiest way to manipulate a spawn is to just camp the spawn room. I don't think that really needs a lot of explanation, so let's move on. Base capture in PlanetSide 2 comes down to two main elements: momentum and numbers. This is probably worth a video in itself, but here are at least a few things that you can consider. When talking about momentum, you can think of it as how many people are alive at any given time and their proximity and movement toward the capture point. Because what happens when all but one of your Sunderers is destroyed? Usually the walk is really long, the enemy gets more advantageous positions, and you know that the fight is just a few bricks of C4 from being over. Now if you turn that on its head for a moment and think, what happens when you place a Sunderer closer to the rest of the Sunderers currently on the field? Allies will revive at whichever Sunderer is closest to where they died. So if you push a Sunderer toward the point and then deploy it, you'll not only shorten up how quickly your reinforcements can get to the point, but you'll also get people on point in the first place, which is a much bigger deal. From there, it would be all about combat medics keeping people alive. Even if your Sunderer does end up going down, the fact that you are on the point instead of being killed in transit to it means that enemies need to double back and deal with you, which pulls more forces away from the front lines, which gives your allies, who may have that longer walk ahead of them, an easier time moving forward to the point. If you zoom out on this for a little bit and go to the map view, you can think about it in terms of lattice links. If one base is being fought over heavily, and the attackers are finally making some progress, send a squad to take the lattice link that's directly behind them. Then, if people do get to the point of the base that you're defending, they'll just be there twiddling their thumbs until the last base in the lattice gets recaptured. When people see that a base is getting backcapped, someone will be sent to deal with it. The longer it takes for the enemy to reclaim their lattice link, the more people who will get bored or frustrated, and then they'll go redeploy to help take it back themselves. That weakens the front line and makes it much easier for you to defend the current base. As a stalker infiltrator, you can do this by yourself until somebody pulls a dark light, but that does happen pretty often nowadays, so you're better off doing it as part of a squad. It'll take a good deal of enemies coming back to the base to deal with you, and that can drastically change how the fight at the next lattice link progresses. Getting back to spawn manipulation though, the positive way to reinforce good spawns is to pull a Sunderer, and then you park it closer to the point than other Sunderers. You get people on the point, you build momentum, it's good all around. The more controversial way, and I know some people are going to start crying as soon as they hear me say this, is to destroy allied Sunderers that are slowing down your fight. Like I said, public players will spawn at whichever Sunderer is closest to where they last died. This is a fact, and it's why they added quick spawning to the game in the first place. For some bases though, this is not a good thing. If you've ever had a Sunderer on the cliff of Arroyo Torre Station, when a better one is available on the ground, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The public player will spawn because it's close, and then they'll just be stuck up there like a cat in a tree. Some more experienced individuals will pull light assaults and then they'll cruise their way on down to the tower and capture the points. But more commonly, you'll see a bunch of lower battle rank players switching to their infiltrator class and whipping out their sniper rifle because all that they are interested in is shooting at something. So even though you have a bunch of people alive, your hex population looks good, they're not moving toward the point. They're not even doing anything worthwhile, and you're slowly pulling more and more people away from where they could be making an impact. Here's another example. Some Sunderers may be closer to the point, but force you to walk by a spawn room in order to get to the capture point. This is never a good idea for obvious reasons, because not only are you just asking to be farmed, you're again keeping people from being useful. Dealing with public players is like building bridges for lemmings, it really is. So the smartest idea here is to just blow that Sunderer if better alternatives are available. And I don't necessarily want to encourage this because if you're watching this video, chances are that you may not know yet what constitutes as a stupid spawn location and what doesn't. But I do want you to at least start to be able to recognize it by looking around and seeing that, hey, we're all kind of hanging out here, we're not really making any progress toward the objective, maybe there's something more useful that we could be doing right now. Knowing how your actions will create differences in each battle is something that you will learn over time. And taking a moment to actively think about what's going on instead of just ramming your face into the brick wall over and over and over and over and over, that'll help you become a better player overall. If this video has been interesting, helpful, or entertaining, please feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends about the channel, and if you have some useful methods for shaping the battle, feel free to share those in the comments section down below. Thanks very much folks, Wrel signing off.